the Galactic Institute of Higher Mathematics, occupied 17 orbital platforms around the neutron star -9, each one housing the greatest mathematical minds from across known space. For 3 standard cycles, the Institute had wrestled with what they called the paradox of infinite convergence, an equation so complex that it had broken the processing cores of 14 quantum computers and driven Dvorthian professors into early retirement. Beverly Chen sat in the cafeteria of Platform 7, absently stirring her instant ramen while scrolling through her tablet. She was the only human at the Institute, accepted more as a curiosity than a serious scholar. The other species, the 8-brained Quillarians, the mathematically obsessed Zen, the living computational matrices known as the sequence, tolerated her presence with bemused condescension. "The human eats primitive noodles again," chittered Professor Zil, his crystalline body refracting rainbow patterns across the metallic walls as he passed her table. Perhaps if she consumed proper nutrition supplements, her neural pathways would function adequately. Beverly didn't look up. She'd grown accustomed to the jabs. Instead, she focused on the problem displayed on her tablet, the infamous equation that had stumped the galaxy's finest minds. It sprawled across multiple screens, a serpentine tangle of symbols, functions, and dimensional operators that seemed to fold in on themselves. The cafeteria was nearly empty during the mid-cycle break. Most scholars were in their laboratories, running simulations or meditating in mathematical trance states. Beverly preferred the quiet. She slurped her noodles and let her eyes drift over the equation. Not really trying to solve it, just observing. That's when she noticed it. A pattern, not in the equation itself, but in the space between the terms. The negative space, as her old art teacher would have called it. The galactic mathematicians had approached the problem as a conquering army approaches a fortress, with overwhelming computational force and systematic siege tactics. But Beverly saw something else. She saw rhythm. She saw music. Her chopsticks paused halfway to her mouth. "Oh," she whispered. "Oh, that's elegant." She set down her ramen and began to work, fingers flying across the tablet. The equation wasn't meant to be solved through brute force calculation. It was a jazz improvisation, a Caland response that required intuition as much as logic. The Quillarians, for all their 8 brains, thought in parallel lines. The Zenthas, despite their obsession with numbers, thought in rigid hierarchies. The sequence thought in binary cascades. Humans thought in messy, contradictory, beautiful tangents. Beverly's approach would have horrified her professors. She didn't prove each step with rigorous documentation. Instead, she felt her way through the problem, using what mathematicians back on Earth called physical intuition. The gut-level understanding that something was right before you could prove why. She simplified here, expanded there, and performed what the galactic community would consider an absolutely unorthodox substitution in the middle. Section 20-3 minutes later, she had an answer. She stared at it, her noodles forgotten and growing cold. Then she checked it again, and again. "No way," she muttered. "No freaking way." Albert Thornwood, the Institute's Director of Theoretical Applications, was in the middle of a heated debate with 3 Zenthor professors when his comm unit chimed with an urgent notification. He almost ignored it. These debates typically lasted for hours and were crucial for maintaining diplomatic relations, but something about the alert made him glance at his screen. His face went paler. "Excuse me," he said to the Zen, who thrummed with displeasure at the interruption. He rushed out of the conference chamber, his long legs carrying him swiftly through the curved corridors of Platform 7. He found Beverly exactly where the location tag indicated, still sitting in the cafeteria, staring at her tablet with an expression somewhere between shock and amusement. "Beverly," Albert said, slightly out of breath, did you submit a solution to the paradox?" She looked up, her dark eyes meeting his. Yes, I think so. I was eating lunch and it just kind of ... clicked." Albert sat down heavily across from her. He was a human as well, one of only 5 in the entire institute, and he'd spent the last decade building credibility for their species in the mathematical community. He pulled out his own device and opened the file she'd submitted. His eyes widened as he read. "This is ... He scrolled further. "Beverly, this is absolutely insane. Bad insane or good insane? I don't know yet. Let me run the verification protocols." His fingers danced across the interface, feeding her solution into the Institute's main computational framework. The quantum processors hummed, analyzing each step, checking each transformation, validating each leap of logic. They both waited in silence, Beverly nervously twisting her chopsticks, Albert's knee bouncing under the table. Then the results came. Back. The equation resolved. Perfectly. Elegantly. Impossibly. It's correct, Albert breathed. Beverly, it's completely correct. Within hours, Platform 7 was in chaos. Professors materialized from every corner of the institute, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony of demands, disbelief, and grudging amazement. Professor Zilthar's crystalline structure flickered with rapid color changes, a sign of extreme agitation in his species. The human cannot have solved the paradox, he insisted, his voice sharp as breaking glass. We have dedicated 3 cycles to this problem. The Quillarian Council devoted 8 synchronized brainstreams. The sequence allocated 17% of their collective consciousness. A primitive biped with a single organic brain cannot have, and yet she did. Albert interrupted, his voice carrying the quiet confidence of verified data. The solution has been validated by our top-tier quantum systems. It's elegant, unconventional, and absolutely correct. Beverly stood to the side, feeling distinctly uncomfortable with the attention. She'd only been trying to enjoy her lunch, a Quillarian elder. All 8 of its brain lobes, pulsing with thought, floated forward. Its translation device spoke in measured tones. Explain your methodology, human Beverly. How did you perceive what we could not? Beverly glanced at her now cold realm, then back at the assembled mathematical giants of the galaxy. She thought about trying to explain human intuition, about pattern recognition evolved from a million years of survival, about the way Earth's chaotic ecosystems had wired human brains to find order in apparent randomness. Instead, she shrugged. I guess I just looked at it differently. You were all trying to conquer the equation. I just danced with it. The Quillarian's translation device made a sound that might have been confusion. Danced? Yeah, Beverly said, warming to the metaphor. You can't force mathematics to submit. You have to move with it, feel where it wants to go. The equation was telling you the answer the whole time. You just weren't listening. There was a long silence in the cafeteria. Then Professor Zilthar made a sound like wind chimes in a hurricane's Thorian laughter. Perhaps, he said, his earlier condescension notably absent, there is more to human mathematics than we presumed. Beverly Chen, your solution will be added to the great repository. And perhaps we have something to learn from your species after all. Beverly smiled. Does this mean I can finish my lunch now? Albert grinned. I think you've earned it. Though something tells me ramen is going to become very popular around here. As the crowd dispersed, still murmuring in various languages and electromagnetic frequencies, Beverly sat back down with her cold noodles. She'd come to the institute as a curiosity, a token representative of a species, barely beginning to reach for the stars. She was leaving lunch as the mathematician who reminded the galaxy that sometimes the most sophisticated solution came from the most human approach, intuition, creativity, and the willingness to see problems not as walls to break through, but as dancers to join. And that, perhaps, was the most humanity of **** moment of all.